Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's a new year, and I'm going to say before we even begin, I missed you guys. All two of you, whoever you are, whoever's listening. Lori, I missed you.
I
Bobby,
missed
I
you.
missed you. I missed I missed what happens in these 40 minutes. Um, and that's probably a selfish thing because I'm this has been good for me. I don't know. I hope that there is some benefit, even if it's to steer you 180 degrees from how we do things. But welcome back. Welcome to 2022. Super excited because I feel different. I feel different about about myself. I feel different about my healing. I feel different about my vulnerability, my willingness to go places I haven't in a long time. And so, thank you for listening. Thank you, Strong Island, for giving us this fantastic opportunity. And we're super excited to see Strong Island grow and blossom. And this is a good year. Um, I'm going to start with a little something I wrote. And my sister told me, she said, remember we were talking about being compelled? Why don't you just read that out? And it doesn't necessarily pertain to today's topic, but it's a little something that I wrote and I do enjoy writing. So here goes. Did I capture the years correctly? Stumbled through the last several decades, wasted time figuring out what it's meant to be. The prize? Witnessing impossible pain and the gentle antidote of romance and touch. Your hands, alive in the same shaky fashion of our lost summer that time cannot bury. I welcome the smile that creeps across my face, the same smile that refuses to be chased by loss. Not unlike fading vision, your whisper remains. Walking the cobblestone streets of a foreign land remains indelible, standing tired and worn next to all things new. Nostalgia is a powerful thing. Was it real? Does it matter? I watch time dance and it's always adorned in 42 calls. If the days hidden in forever built this fire, what would become of years? Who am I to pretend I deserve more than the everything I've ever wanted? My shelter will always be wrapped in the storm of 42 calls. Hand in hand, we taught the flame to lick the sky with 42 calls. The margins are greater than the dreams at the center. Barefoot is the only way to kiss, and you'll know why when gifted the opportunity. Throw your rope, cast your line, and harvest your garden with 42 calls. Because when we fall in love, the soul gets lost finding its way. Did I block your sun? Did I knot your laces or smear your painting? I only wanted to hold you and protect you from someone just like me. I'd caused the pain because my heart was in the right place and state of mind. And you thought I was just getting even. I wasn't. What if I slipped a note beneath your dreams? Would the colors change? In your presence, my heart beats so loud I can smell it. It smells just like 42 calls. The valley of opinion and endless corridors of chance are the inside out of the misplaced step. How did I know the way? How did you show me the way? Streamers chasing planes, we all move towards our own 42 calls. Maybe if we knew the spiritual relationship with time had a sunset, maybe then we would both introduce and retire love. There's a bead on a leather lace that's been there for years. It too is from 42 calls. Can I borrow perfection for a little while? I held it once before, but I let it slip away. A scar is no way to end a love story. But then again, when two ends of time are tied, one always cries. The unchaperoned heart finds pleasure and hope while marching to the martial music of the unknown. My boots are covered with the dust of shadows from all the late nights searching for the scent of that experience. I would illicitly pirate the reverie, knowing what I know now. Sometimes I wonder if these collections of thoughts will someday help you to understand what you meant to me. Radical in its simplicity, these notes are truly the best of me. When I walk, there's a crystal clear crunch of snow beneath my feet as all else yields to the memories and colors of the gift. We are not the same any longer. We have changed, having bathed in 42 calls. Hollow? Would it be romantic with any other word? Bon appetit. That was a little something I wrote, and my sister said, well, that's really good. I enjoyed that, brother. So would you read that? And so there you go. Lori, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. And I don't even know for sure that you can call it enjoyed it as much as I needed that. Um,
Ooh,
Today we're
that's
talking
deep.
about being wounded. Thank you. I just thought it. We're talking about being wounded, and it is kind of like a welcome wound to hear it again. It hurts. It hurts. And I can't even say it's the sweet is in the bittersweet yet to hear it. But I really, really profoundly love that piece.
Well, let me tell you something as your little brother. I love that you love it, and thank you. But listen, this is 2022, and I reflected back on all the different things we've talked about. And while I'm going to say that we're going to continue to display a very personal, as I like to say, sifting, sorting, soothing, and solving of life's challenges of the heart, and Lori, thank you. I'm just going to come out and tell you as my twin, thank you, because you know what? I feel better today than I did last year. See what I did there?
Excellent. Excellent.
So today I want to talk about the welcome wound,
Nice.
because we've talked about a lot of stuff, and I think that isolated are the occurrences where learning is found in the void of discomfort.
Yes.
So as we kind of unpack, unravel, solve, soothe, um, there's a wound, and I think that perception changes how we embrace this, and if we can kind of walk towards the light being the fire that is painful, in there is, well, enlightenment. And so between you and I got to say that I feel like I'm getting better at this. And when I say better at this, I'm better at welcoming the wound, because I am starting to recognize in very personal way, I'm starting to recognize the benefits for me for just a very organic um, solving process of things that are difficult, things that are challenging.
Yeah.
And I got to say, for me, it's only during the greatest of pain that direction and clarity are found. And typically, there's an undeniable correlation between the magnitude and the value of the lesson. So it's almost like the more uncomfortable I get in trying to understand myself, the more I learn. And therein lies the welcome wound.
I love that. So we could probably wrap it up there. Um, but but
But
but we won't, because some of us pick at our wounds. So let's continue. Let's aggravate that wound and take a better look, like you say. Let's sift some more.
join us next week for the welcome scab.
It's funny. While I'm hearing you talk about welcoming a wound in a new way, first of all, I would have never guessed that you would not. But you're human, so why shouldn't I have thought that anyways? And that's one of the greatest lessons I think I've learned in life, is that, like, in matters of the heart, like when we want to live in a way that is in line with our heart and we want to live from the heart, one of the things you learn along the way, and it's brutal because here the thing about a wound, ouch, it does come with pain. And the deeper you go into it, the more pain there is. Um, and so through that pain, one of the things I have learned is when we want to live in accord with our heart, we can't rebel against what happens to us in life. We cannot like it. We can have a feeling about it, but to press against it as if we could reverse what has been done is not only futile, but it also delays our growth. And we're agreeing to kind of put everything on pause until the past is changed or until our situation is changed. And this will be kind of what I end up talking about going into the new year, how this happens. But the welcome wound to me is just an agreement that there is a wound and an acknowledgement of it. And it exists anyways. But when you say it's a welcome wound, you're just acknowledging that it's there, because it's there whether you welcome it or not. It's just becomes a matter of a purposeful wound that you can heal from or not. I'm going to add one more thing and then turn it back to you, because I'm more interested in what you have to say about this. But when I think of wounds, I think of a time when you nearly cut your leg off. Do you remember that wound? Oh my gosh. Never mind the layers of skin. We're talking layers of fat, muscle, nerves, so much. And we were quite young when it happened. You were too young for such a wound, but it happened nonetheless. Nothing you could do about it. And you were agreeable with it, considering, because you didn't really have a choice. But I remember there were times I would help you to change the wound. And one of the things that always has stuck with me as kind of a metaphor is that they kept that wound open. They didn't just stitch it in layers, and because when you have a wound that deep, you must heal from the inside out. And so it's a wound that's packed to be forced to be kept open until it heals layer by layer from what's the most inside you to the outer world. And I think that points to how we heal many things.
So I have to agree with you. There is a literal wound and there's a metaphorical wound. Right. And there are some, very neatly choreographed similarities between the two of them. The reason that wounds are kept open, especially traumatic wounds, is because your body can only handle so much trauma. So if there is a wound, they will administer triage and then they will leave it open for a time, because follow me on this, if infection were to set in, they would have to reopen it and it would be a new wound. It would a pre-existing wound, but a new wound. So there is as I understand it, now I can be completely wrong, and these things happened when I was very young, but as I understand it, there are limits to the trauma and psychological impact and devastation of generous wounds. So they leave it open, you get comfortable with it, they verify everything, and then at a future date, they come and kind of close it up. That's happened to me twice in my life, because when I was 15,
that's it.
when I was 15, I had an accident where I had some serious internal injuries from a seatbelt, not unlike your own, which happened
same age.
Very, very similar. And they left that wound open as well. And so when I talk about the wounds and the welcome wounds, this really should all fall on your shoulders, because you get the credit. The idea came to me because you were talking about your son. And you were like, listen, struggle now or struggle later. All we're dealing with is geography. Where are you going to be when you're struggling? Are you
Mhm.
going to be youthful and better able to fight another day? Or are you going to be not in your dotage, but certainly, uh, a senior as compared to the struggle? You know, all you're doing is keeping it at bay, and its time will come.
And
So the
yeah,
welcome wound, as I see it metaphorically, is deal with them as they come, because in as much as every emotion has a lifespan, so do struggles.
right.
So we can keep it at bay, but we can, don't really want to bandage that wound up right now. And again, metaphorically, bandage uh, psychological trauma, uh, relationship trauma, employment trauma. I mean, all the different things that we deal with.
Brother
So
trauma.
what's that, brother?
No, I mean, here we are. I mean, I'm late, but here we are doing it. Go ahead.
Welcome. So I really like that. I mean, and thank you, because as much as we're all running away from 2021, it's good to go back, because
Yes.
that's where this idea came. And Dad used to say, if you didn't know who you've been, oh, who would you be if you didn't know who you've already been? It's like, wow, kind of a chance to reinvent yourself, but it's useful to know that there are things we don't like. There
Right.
are things we learn from, and these are the welcome wounds.
Beautiful. Um, and that speaks volumes to me when you say like we keep them at bay, or we set aside a wound for like a better time. Like there's a better time to be devastated, a better time and to me the contrast, like if I wait for ideal circumstances and then enter this wound, the contrast would be more to bear, if I've moved on and just let that wound kind of have a superficial cover. um and like we're saying, you could bandage a wound prematurely by just masking it, right? A superficial, just covering the top of it. The thing is, it festers under there. There's a reason, and I say this all the time. The natural points to the supernatural. So when we talk in metaphors, it's because things of the heart are very complicated to define and to express. But this does it nicely. The one that you chose. Um, the other thing is you want to deal with the wounds when they're there and exposed, and allow them to be exposed, because that's the only way that a wound can receive disinfectant, is to be exposed and let that light hit it. That cures it. That's it. And it is painful. It does burn. But that is how cleansing actually happens. And I'm going to say something about healing, but I just want to say, or I guess I can just go into that now. Like when we say, well, how do I heal from a wound? How do I, what do we do? There's no recipe. Who taught us? Here we are. We sort it out together, first of all. We heal, for me, I think any kind of wound that we have, for me, and then we'll open it up to a discussion. I'll just say two things about it. The first being, I feel like we heal from any type of wound. Simple formula: be good, do good, and your wounds will start to heal. The other thing is just agree that you're wounded and you would like to heal. Do it well, do it poorly, fail at it, but do it. And the wound does heal inevitably, in my experience with my wounds. What do you think, like, as far as what you've suffered and are ready to face this year?
I have to go back, and I have to think about, so like one of the, when you invited me to join you in this,
Demanded.
demanded, yeah,
Right.
pulled the age card. When you did that, early on, I talked and I said about um, bricks in a backpack.
Uh-huh.
And,
Yes, that's right.
and that was like literally one of the first, either the first or second podcast that I attended with you. And and the deal is that just because you can not deal with it, it doesn't mean that it doesn't slow you down.
Right,
Because
right,
one backpack, I mean, I apologize. One brick in your backpack is not the catalyst.
right.
It's the collection. And
Yes.
I mean, to imagine that we're going to be so enriched in our own understanding about ourselves that we will never carry bricks in our backpacks, probably not realistic. But we should try to not only take them out and use them, build something with them, build a better understanding, a better self, a better heart. But I mean, we literally have to do everything we can, because even if it is not, um, even if it is not, if that experience is not going to take us down, carrying too many of them will certainly slow us down.
Right. And then you're getting that bruise in your side and you don't know which one is doing the digging at some point.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
and the reason I think, like you said, that the experience, you're talking about experience here. And I think that's where I'm coming from when I say, like, you have to be open to the experience. You don't have to be good. You don't have to be adequate. You could be a failure. It's just a willingness to experience that. Um, and the reason I think we do it is because this is a debt we owe one another as humans. Me and you first as family, and probably we owe it the most to those that are closest to us and to ourself. To ourself, we owe the minimum to ourself to do with our life, I guess, the best we can, the value that it has. Does that make sense? Can you reiterate that? Can you translate for me, please, what you think I'm saying there? Because sometimes you can word things a little bit better.
Okay, what Lori is trying to say is that she's hungry.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
She's
Um,
hungry and she needs to make a lunch. um, Lori, you're right, and I'm gonna go before 15 minutes before we came on for this podcast. I was telling you, asked me, you said, "Did you go work out this morning?" And I said, "I can't not go now." And this is completely different, and maybe it's mildly celebratory for myself. But the truth is that just the attempt, just the attempt became the routine. The routine became the process. The process became what I enjoy today. And what I enjoy today is probably about the best physical health I've enjoyed. I mean, I'm definitely going to say the last 10 years. I had a goal. I wanted to be at a certain point physically, when I still haven't broke the 9 minute mile, but I wanted to be somewhere where I felt good. And it's funny that you're asking this, because as I just made the attempt,
right. Yeah.
the attempt was the solution. And it's not that I made an
That
attempt and
say
I
that one
got
more
it. No, I made an attempt and it was a terrible experience and it was extremely hard and it was painful and it was disgusting. But you know what? I'm still attempting today.
Yes.
Only it's the sweet salve of success, and I'm still attempting.
You know what?
I'm still in the attempt mode.
I got to interrupt you for this because when you first were talking, I was listening to you open and you're saying a whole lot of things. And one of the things you said is having a wound. How do we solve it? How do we soothe it? And I wrote solve, soothe, and right underneath it, I wrote in big letters with 3 question marks, what's the ointment? Like, what is the ointment
Mm-hmm.
in metaphysical wounds, in a wounded heart.
Ah,
A
go
wound,
back to last year, Lori. It's persistence, perseverance. It's,
oh, is it? Okay. But I think it's the initiation. It,
yes, the attempt.
that's like the cleansing, and then you put the ointment or something like that. We're making a big old metaphor here. But the other thing I wanted to say is, why does it matter that we accept this suffering? Well, because to accept suffering on some level is to accept the human condition. And it's really weird when humans go around and we've been saying a lot in this day and age. It's we equate anything uncomfortable with bad, very bad, even tiny amounts of discomfort, never mind pure unadulterated suffering, but just a little discomfort, and we're like, oh, what are we going to do about this? Let's get a committee, let's all talk about it, let's make a decision, let's make a law, let's do this. And there's this huge aversion, but there's no escaping this idea that once we start to do that, that's that rebellion against suffering. When we deny suffering, we are denying the human condition, and we are unable to make it better because we're not seeing it for what it is. And if there's any good to be had in suffering, because I haven't reached, that enlightenment you're talking about, but I will say, at least to experience it, if nothing else, to really allow yourself to feel it, it softens your heart, and you recognize it when you see somebody else experiencing it, and you are better equipped to be good to them, right?
Yep, I can agree. I think, and I keep going back to last year because we covered a lot of really good stuff that we could spend a long time
Oh, we'll have
talking
to go
about.
back and redo it. Yeah, a lot fast.
But perception, how we perceive wounds. It's funny because they say, I remember telling my daughter, she broke her arm, and I was explaining to her, I said, the funny thing about a broken bone is that upon healing, it's the strongest part of that bone.
Yeah, right.
It's kind of the same as like scar tissue. Scar tissue has its disadvantages, but other than cosmetically, but scar tissue once healed, that is like that is strong, beyond strong.
Right.
And we've got mental scars. Those scars are there as merit badges of success. It's like we made it. A time that broke me, and it's okay to be broken. It's like, it's okay. It's like, yeah, it broke me, but here I am today to share the experience. And I think that's one of the things that I hope we do in this podcast is that, and I have to honestly say, I think we're getting far more comfortable being vulnerable with disclosure, and it's like, maybe that's what this is all about, is just sharing our ugly.
Oh yeah, you have to be willing to it, I think you captured it right. I'm generally kind of open to it, but everybody has this kind of a sense of guarding certain things. But I think you said it right. You pushed me a lot at the beginning, off air and on. And the fact of the matter is, you're like, listen, I'm not, if I do this with you, I'm not going to BS. We're not going to be teaching people, knock it off. And whether we can call that a wound, a slight scratch, whatever, you're like, we're not telling people, we are just expressing where we are, what we're doing, because from that, people can draw very likely, especially with a couple dummies like me and you, much better conclusions. And that's why we're willing to do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you had told me, like, we must expose the woundedness. And I think also when you do expose it, you accept something that just was, that you cannot change. To not talk about it, to deny it, doesn't change it. And if anything, it can become our wounds that we refuse to address and heal. And the thing that kind of feels unfair, but it just is that no matter how we got a wound, it's our responsibility to heal. We get wounded by doing good. We get wounded and hurt by others. Most of our wounds we do to ourselves, but no matter how we come about them, we are responsible for tending to them. And we're responsible for tending to one another's wounds, but that's not to say that we can sit expecting it from anybody. Mm-hmm. Because another thing, this is kind of funny because we're revisiting last year that you had said that I think of a lot of times, like if I, if Steve annoys me, you annoy me, anything happens, or I think of something old, not with you, just with whoever. And I don't even have any specifics here, but like, I tell myself like, well, I can stand in this. I can like kind of ruminate. And when I ruminate now, I'm like, because to me now I recognize it as a holding pattern. You called it a holding pattern, like the airplanes. And I think, well, I can just stay in a holding pattern, but you will run out of gas and crash. So I've like kind of extended that where I'm like, or I see how I can land this bad boy given the circumstances. That's it. Those are your choices.
Good analogy. Right? Land the plane.
It's yours. So of course you like it. No, but you know what?
No, land the plane. Land the plane.
Yeah, because you said we get stuck in a holding pattern. And I'm like, yeah, to what end? Because everything will end, like you said. We will be on that other side. Is it in the ocean? Is it a messy landing and you hobble away? I'll pick that. I'll take that.
Mm-hmm.
But being paralyzed in hurt, oh my gosh, that's the greatest thief of freedom in life, I think.
We're sitting here and we've got, about 6 minutes left. I'm just kind of notifying you on time. But I'm telling you, one of the things that we're going to have to, perhaps in a future podcast, just the beauty of the attempt.
Messy is
yeah
right. Tell me more. Why don't you finish it out think out loud about that for a bit.
I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, there are people that, for whatever sport, mine was boxing, and you walk away from a match, victor or otherwise, and you got a black eye, blood was drawn. Mm-hmm. But the fact that you were in the ring is the reward. The outcome's irrelevant.
Rocky 1's the best one.
But you got in there.
Rocky 1 is the best Rocky, right?
Yeah. I mean, you got in there. And it's like, even walking away battered, bruised, broken, still, you can't help but smile through your one good eye and be like, I did that.
Yep.
That was me. I did it. And you know what? Half the people wanted to see me fail, but you know what? The other half were cheering for me.
Yep. And that's one thing I actually think I have some healthy pride in this without ego, because I sometimes consider myself one that, like, I'm really good at signing up for it and taking an ass kicking. Okay. I'm not kidding. And I'm like, and I feel like that's one of my good attributes. Seriously. Not always. But
hi, I'm Lori. I'm a sadist.
No, masochist.
Masochist.
You're the that's
no, one says hurt me, the other one says no.
That's the ultimate torture.
Right. So that's a good way. That's a good way to
what did you call it? The attempt?
The attempt, the beautiful attempt. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So listen, Lori, and we got to tie this up. How awesome for to be reunited again in a new year. We had a birthday. We're 48 years old. Holy moly.
You know,
Um,
6 years older than that 42. I was thinking that while you were reading it. Six more
yeah.
visits.
So, isn't it exciting? It's a good time. It's a good place to be. I don't know if anybody listening will reflect on this, but they should.
Yeah.
We probably sound healthier, not better, healthier
Mm-hmm.
this year than we did last year. Part of it's that healing is becoming familiar, and we all like things that are familiar, even when they're bad. We don't get out of relationships because they're bad, because it's also at the same time that it's bad, it's also reliable and familiar. And
Yeah.
so you and
Yeah.
I are getting more and more familiar with healing.
Yeah. And with the messiness of it.
You keep going to messy. I don't know what you got going on over there.
Because you keep saying how sloppy it is. And the other thing is, I always, my theory had always been in searching for a partner, everybody's gonna like, no matter what you think how things are, like when you meet somebody in dating life and everything, it doesn't matter. You're just basically picking who at some point, and some days you really want, like, it's you that I choose to hate on occasion.
Oh
And
my goodness.
continue.
So I'm gonna say, Lori, this was good. This was good. Like every other conversation that I have with you, it's
Great
good.
topic to start the year, and I think it'll we'll keep it at the front of our thoughts through the season. Season 3, by the way.
Season 3.
Mhm.
Thank you, Lori.
Thank
Thank
you.
thank you for being my twin. Thank you for including me in this very private and
Making you.
private only in that, you're really digging into some places that you're willing to share with all of us, but up until they're vocalized, they're very private. And so maybe there's just an equation here where we become better at getting through difficult times. I know I feel better this year, and I'm grateful for it. Strong Island, like, you guys are the bomb.
Hi,
um,
Bobby. Thank you. Happy New Year, Bobby.
and I can't even say you guys because it's a one-man band that does it all. It slices, it dices. I'm going to call it the Ronco Strong Island Entertainment. You know.
Happy New Year, everybody. Happy New Year.
All
Yeah.
right. Thank you, Bobby.
You can
You
like
got
and
it.
share the podcast as well as Strong Island. And season 3, big things. We're going to try to
Take
just
callers.
take callers and just do a little more. And let's see what happens. All
All
right.
right.
Until next time, farewell and
Adios.